Loops. The for loop statement is used to repeat a block of statements enclosed in a curly brace or a curly bracket. The increment counter is usually used to increase the value and terminate the loop. The for loop statement is useful for any repetitive operation, and it is often used in combination with arrays to operate on collection of data. Take for instance, you were given a project to create a self-driving car. For better safety, the car sensor always has to check for cars and pedestrians and other vehicles moving on the road so as to avoid accidents. The loop plays an important role to keep checking the information to help make the car make good decisions, and the loop stops when the car is parked safely. This is an example of a for loop. First, you write your keyword for, open and close a bracket, then the initialization, then next a condition, and then the increment counter. Now you open up your curly brace and close your curly brace, and inside your curly brace you type in your statement. First, what is initialization? Initialization is defined as the initialization of a variable. Next, the condition. The condition is tested in every execution. If the condition is true, it will execute the given task inside the loop. But the loop ends only when the condition becomes false. The increment. The increment includes the increment operator such as 1 times 2, I times 2, I plus 1, etc. It is incremented each time until the condition turns false. Here is a practical example of a loop statement. First, we declare a variable with the data type of int. So we create a local variable inside the void setup. So simply type in the data type, which is int, and then the variable name, which is just simply I. Then we add a semicolon. So now I call my for loop statement. So I just type for and then open and close the bracket. Then inside my bracket, I call the variable I and then initialize a value which is 0. So the standard value for my variable is 0. Then I close that to semicolon. Next is the condition. I simply say if I is less than 4, then whatever is inside the loop function, whatever is inside the loop statement will run. Then close the semicolon. So next, to make sure the variable is always updated by 1 whenever it runs, I use an increment operator. I just simply call my variable I and then put a plus. So just simply say I plus 1. So what that does is that whenever my loop runs, it adds 1 to the variable. So I'm going to explain that shortly. So I open up a curly brace and close the curly brace. Then inside the curly brace, I just press enter to break off the curly brace and then start typing my statement. So first I'm supposed to call my serial.print, serial.begin to begin a communication between the Arduino, then close statement semicolon. So now inside the for loop, I just simply say serial.print and I print out a string. put a double quote, and then so that double quote I just say hello world. Then outside the curly brace of my for loop, I just simply type a serial dot print to make sure that this is no more printing inside the loop. Then close my statement with semicolon. So for my increments, I'm just supposed to add I is equal to, so to create an initialization. Yeah. So I will be equal to whatever current value is in I plus 1. Then I click on um, start simulation. So it started. So just click on my serial monitor. So you see my serial monitor here, it has print hello world 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's saying done with the loop. So how this just actually worked was that this was my for loop. I created a variable int one, int I. So my variable name is I and the data type is int. Then for inside my for loop, inside the bracket of my for loop, I said I initialized the variable to be I equal to 0. So our variable has a value of 0. Then I close semicolon. So next I said if I is less than 4, so whenever I is less than 4, whatever is inside this loop statement is going to run. Now the next statement beside my condition will be the increment. So the increment will be I equal to I plus 1. So I call the variable, then I want to initialize an expression. I say I equal to I. So this I just meaning just saying that whatever value was in I before, so whether it was 10, whether it was 50, I wanted to add 1 to whatever value was in I before. So at the beginning I just say I equals to 1, it will delete whatever value was inside I before, and I just store 1 inside. But I don't want to do that. I just want to keep adding 1 to it. So I just simply call the I, so whatever past value was in I, 1 will be added to that past value. So everything will now be stored, will now be updated on the variable I again. So I believe you understand that. So it's just simply adding a particular number to the value and storing that expression inside the variable. So what this does is that currently our I is on 0, so it's actually less than 4. So it's going to run whatever is in the loop, which is hello world. It's going to print hello world down here, and then it goes up to the increment, and the increment adds 1 to the variable. So now our variable is 2. So now to come over here, since our variable is 2 now, it's going to check is 2 greater less than 4, which is true. So it's going to still run whatever is in the code, and then to add 1 again. So now it will now be 3. So it will ask again, it will come over, you come over to this condition that asks is 3 now uh, is 2 less than 4, which is true. 2 is actually less than 4. It also prints this and prints hello world again. So it adds again, it just keeps adding. So when it gets to 4, it's going to check um is 4. When it adds 1 again to 3, and then 3 becomes 4, it's going to ask is 3 less than 4, which is true. It's going to still run whatever is inside the loop. Then it's going to add 1 again to 4. Then to ask is 1 less than 4. So 1 is not actually less than 4 because 1 is equal to 4. So then it will break off the loop because that is incorrect. Okay, so because I is no longer 3 again, I has updated to 4. So I is no less than 4, I is equal to 4 because I has a value of 4 now. So to break off the loop and then to print the statement done with the loop. So that's what you see down here, done with the loop. So it will just print whatever condition statement you have inside the loop for a certain amount of time. So if that condition is actually false, it's going to break up the loop. Okay, so that's the basic illustration of a for loop. So I hope you understand what a for loop is. So the next we'll be dealing with is the while loop. The while loop is the conditional loops that continues to execute the code inside the parentheses until the specified condition becomes false. The while loop will never exit until the tested condition changes or made to stop. The while loop consists of the while keyword, then inside your brackets will just be your condition. Then your opening and your closing brace or curly braces will be for your statement. The condition, it specify the boolean expression which determines the condition to be true or false. So here's an example of a while loop. So what we do first, we will create a variable with the data type of int and then with a variable name a, then initialize a value this time. So initialize the value of 0 and close the statement with semicolon. So here this is a global variable unlike the for loop which was a local variable. Now inside the voice setup that's under the serial dot begin, I just simply type in the keyword while, open and close the brackets, and then I call my variable a, and then a less than symbol 5. So if a is less than 5, I open up the curly brace, close curly, then type my conditions in there. So I will just simply say serial dot print, then I'll print a string which will be, so the string will be welcome to Arduino. Next, I'm going to add my increment value, which I just call my variable a, then assign an expression, which will be will be equal to a plus 1. Then close my statement with a semicolon. Then close my statement with semicolon. Okay, so this is just a basic while loop. So here I'm going to call a serial print after the ending curly brace of my while loop. So here I'm going to print done. Okay, so I'll click on start simulation. So if you look at the serial monitor, it printed welcome to Arduino for some certain lines, and then it printed done. Okay, so let's review the code. So first we created a variable with the data type of int, and the variable name is a, and then we initialize a value 0 and end the statement to semicolon. So inside you discover that that variable is a global variable. So inside our void setup, we called in our serial dot begin to begin a communication using Arduino and the computer. Then we called the while loop. So just type the while keyword and then open and close a bracket. So inside that bracket will be our condition. So we just see a less than 5. So this just checks if the variable a which you created at the top, we just call the variable a. So if whatever is in a is less than 5, anything inside the curly brace is going to run. So currently 0 is actually the value in a. So 0 is actually less than 5. It's going to run whatever inside the block of code is for the while loop. So inside the block of code there's serial.print, which is welcome to Arduino, and then we created an expression inside the variable. We call the variable a, and then add whatever values in a plus 1 to increase the value of a, so that our loop doesn't run continuum, like it doesn't stop. So if you don't add this increment expression, the loop will never ever stop. It will just keep printing. So in order to make our loop stop, we have to use this expression to make the value increase after every iteration. So here is going to add 1 to whatever value a was before, and then a was 0. If you add 1 to it now, it becomes 1. So it checks again if if 1 is less than 5, which is true. It's going to 1 again. So it's check to add 1 to it, becomes 2. So it checks again if 2 is less than 5, which is true. It's going to add 1 again to print that welcome to Arduino, and then it will add 1, which will be 3, to just keep adding and keep printing 4, and then when it gets to 5, it's going to break out of the loop because has the value of 5, and 5 is cannot be less than 5. So it's actually 4. This is when it becomes false, and then it will now break off the loop. When it breaks off the loop, it will now print done. So that's what you are seeing there on the serial monitor. Okay, so that's a quick example of a while loop. I hope you understand how while loop works. So that will be end of the loop functions, or how to write your loops. I believe you all know about loops and how to create loops. So if you can see, there's a slight difference between the while loop and the for loop. So the order in which they are written is really different. The variables are being declared differently. So you can declare a variable inside the for setup, but here we declare the variable for the while loop with, over the void setup, which is a global variable. But for the for loop, it is a local variable. So the next difference is that for the for loop, inside the bracket, you will initialize your value to 0. But for the while loop, the value of the variable is initialized when the variable is declared. So at the top, we initialize our variable to 0. The next difference is that the increment counter, which we add an expression where the variables get added by 1. For the for loop, it is done inside the bracket, but for the while loop, it is done inside the curly brace of the loop. So these are just very, very simple um, difference between them. So I believe you know the difference and you know how to work with them when you need them. When we move into our project, we're working with loops a lot. So I believe you get these examples properly. So next will be functions.